Good morning, friends. My name is Shelby. If you are new here, I'm out here doing just a good old-fashioned garden vlog. I've got a ton of things to get to. Look at these super overgrown raised beds. I also have some starts that I plan to get into the ground. So we really don't have any time to waste because I'm trying to accomplish a ton of things today. So with that said, let's get started. I had to neglect my garden for a few weeks, and probably the worst time of the year to neglect your garden in the heat of the summer because we were out of our house for renovations. So I'm left with a gigantic mess. It's nothing that I can't bring back to life, but I'm definitely trying to chip away at these raised beds little by little. Also, I'm trying to get some new plants started. So I just got all these peppers started, which is really exciting because my goal is to get these pepper plants growing through the winter time, regardless of if they're going to give me a harvest, which they might give me a harvest, but I want them to be mature by the time spring rolls around. So that was a really big to-do of mine for this fall. So we've got tons of starts. I just ended up starting them all in these little tiny pots, which have been great. I typically do soil blocks, but I was in a rush and I was like, I just need to get these going. So we've got peppercini peppers, jalapeno peppers. I've got yolo peppers, shishito, cubanelle, corno di toro, the mulata island pepper, serrano. So I have a whole bunch of peppers, which is really, really exciting. I was just at the store and I was like, oh my gosh, these peppers are so expensive. This is crazy. I was buying 2 peppers for a meal we were gonna cook later in the week, and holy cow, it was like $5 or $6 for a bag of peppers. Even buying them individually is really expensive. So I'm trying to get my peppers going so I don't have to spend an arm and a leg on that. Next, I got another round of tomato plants started. I know I attempted this, I think back in August, the round of tomato plants, and my chickens got to all of my little seeds, which was a little heartbreaking, but in Florida we have a little bit more flexibility, I would say, as far as like time. So I went ahead and got a whole new round started. I've got a lot going on in each one of these individual pots. I'm just going to gently break them apart from the other ones. So a few good varieties: Tiffin Mennonite, we got San Marzano, Old German, the German Johnson, we have Brandywine tomatoes, yellow stuffer, which I've never grown the yellow stuffer, the vintage wine, sweetie tomato, which I really do want to grow at least one, oh my gosh, at least one cherry tomato plant through the winter, because those are indeterminate plants and they'll just continue to provide basically through the spring. I would say having a few indeterminate tomato plants is really key in Florida, I would say, through the winter, because you're probably going to continue to be able to enjoy harvesting off those plants all winter long. So I want to get at least a few of those in the ground today, some of the peppers in their permanent home, and clean up some of these beds too. I will put my tomato starts in the ground when they are super little, like, I mean, maybe a week out. Basically, I've always done that and it's not really a problem. So I have this super tiny, I'll show you up close, little sweetie cherry tomato plant. Now the reason I'm putting the cherry tomato plant here is because I feel like they do so well, the indeterminate varieties, on the cattle panel arches, and it'll be a good little blend with the pumpkins that are going on over here, because those are gonna eventually peter out and stop doing so well, I'm sure. But the tomato plants, those will inevitably do well for a really long time. So I'm just gonna put this one over here. It's the tiniest little sprout. See here, these are the pumpkin plants that we just planted together, I think like 2 weeks ago. They're hanging on, going strong. And then I planted my little cherry tomato plant right there, and it's going to be huge and overtake. Last winter, I want to say it was like around December or January, we had incredible tomato plants just growing up here through the whole entire winter. paired with like brassicas and everything. It was just such a beautiful mix. So I told myself this year I'm going to do that in this particular area. So hopefully she hangs on. I'm thinking something more interesting on this particular area. We've got the cucumbers, but again, those aren't going to be going all winter long. So I'm just trying to see what would, or envision what's going to be in there for the long haul. So I'm thinking I'll try a Tiffin Mennonite tomato, and I have a bunch of Tiffin Mennonites that have sprouted. And I will overcrowd. I don't do things, you know, too by the book, let's just say, and if you're a current subscriber, you'll know that. So I'm just going to pull one of these out. If you do it at a young enough age, it's not a problem. Oof. I know it looks really rough what I'm doing, but trust me, I've done this so many times. So I'll just take this little sprout. I'll probably put 2 there and plant along with the cucumbers on the very edge so that they can kind of, you know, respect each other's space. I'm gonna do this corner because it looks like the cucumbers on the very edge are doing the best. It looks like there's actually a bunch of ants here. So I'm gonna probably actually plant this a little bit right here. I'll get another Tiffin Mennonite. Just put 2 in here and see what holds on. Before I plant any more, I'm gonna clear out this bed and actually clear out that one too, because I want to put some tomato plants in and possibly pepper plants in these beds on the edges. I started clearing these out the other day, and it was just way too hot to keep going. And I don't know if you tuned into my last video, but I am pregnant, and I have my limits now while I'm pregnant. If it's too hot and it's just too much, I just gotta listen to my body. I'm gonna have to take this out to get to, this one's so intertwined. Okay. These beds are now cleared out, both of them. Strategically, I'm going to plant all of my tomato plants on the very side, that side right there. I don't know if I'm doing this side right here, so that they don't block the sun, because the way that my garden is, the sun rises this way and sets this way. So if I plant any tomatoes on the very edges, the long edges, then they're gonna block out the sun from my winter crops, which I do plan to do brassicas here, like cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli. And yeah, those are the ones I plan to do there. So I don't want to hurt their opportunity to thrive in the next few months. I'm trying to decide, should I do San Marzano here because those are indeterminate, or I'm thinking I will continue to grow these little San Marzano sprouts, wait until I can get my old tomato area rehabbed, because it's way out of control. It's crazy over there, and then plant them over there. So right here, I'll plant something a little bit more interesting. I'm gonna plant, let's see, I just did vintage wine over there, if I'm not mistaken. We'll do some old German tomatoes. This back corner, I'm going to do the old German tomatoes, which are a bigger variety. I'm just gonna plant 2, and again, hope for the best as always. Pulling these suckers out. See, I just pull them apart like so. No harm, no foul. It's all good. Then I'm gonna get these, I don't know if you guys can see, one right here. Over on this side, we will do, let's do the yellow stuffer tomato. I've never grown these, and I really want them to grow successfully because they look kind of hollow on the inside, which is really cool. And then, you know, that'd be fun to stuff them with all kinds of interesting things. The other sprout I have in here looks like it's not doing well at all. I'm just gonna get this one in here. I'm gonna do 4 more of my starts over in this bed right next to it. And I figure, I mean, that's a lot of tomato plants. That's enough to really scratch that tomato itch over the winter time, I hope. And something has to produce. They might not all do well, but something is going to. In Florida is so hit and miss. Like you just gotta throw whatever you can at the wall and see whatever sticks. Because one winter could be unseasonably hot for a really long time, and then there could be another winter that is really cold one week and really hot, then really cold, which pretty much nothing does well with those temperatures that are all over the place. I feel good getting some things in the ground right here. And as I'm doing this, I'll talk a little bit about, because I just said that I was pregnant and I didn't really elaborate any at all. I made a video, but not very many people watched it, which is totally fine because this is a gardening channel and that's just not what people are interested in. I get it. But if you happen to watch this video and you're finding out for the first time, yes, I am pregnant. I'm 15 weeks pregnant. So super excited. Baby number 3. I'm gonna put the Brandywine tomatoes, I'll put them right here. I'm officially in the 2nd trimester, feeling a lot better. So we got our Brandywines back here. The baby will be due in March, which is crazy because my daughter was also born in March, and I'm gonna have 2 March babies. I never thought I would have 2 babies at the same month. I feel like it's gonna be either they're gonna love that growing up or it's gonna be a little complicated, I don't know. But everybody I've talked to says, oh, it's no problem at all. They just have like shared birthdays and all kinds of stuff. So, you know, that is what I'm looking forward to in the next few months. But I say all that because it is going to be spring. So I put those 2 Brandywines there. The height of spring. I'm gonna do San Marzano over here because I have a lot of San Marzanos. But anyways, what I did to prepare before giving birth to my daughter, because I knew I wanted a garden, and I actually did YouTube at that time. You could see I was like as pregnant as can be, trying to panic, get my garden going. I pretty much got things started around January. I was really good about being like structured and planning ahead because I knew it was going to be a lot once the baby got there. And I was really proud of myself because I prepared so well that once she was there, the garden was just in full swing. All my seeds were sown and I could really just walk out and enjoy the garden instead of panicking, you know, really not even be able to do anything because I was having a little newborn. So that's what my goal is this time around too, is to get as much done around January, February as possible and thank myself later so that I can just kind of sit back come March when I have the baby and enjoy, you know, the hard work that I did the months before. I planted a total of 10 tomato plants in all. 4 on this bed, 4 on that bed, 2 on that bed, right? That's 10 in all. So I feel so solid about that. Now I want to get just a few of these pepper plants in the ground. Now I don't have seed markers. I walked around my house for like 15 minutes in the middle of doing all this, trying to look for more seed markers, and I didn't have them. So I want to make sure I don't go too crazy with planting my pepper plants today because I don't have my seed markers. And that is one thing I really like to make sure I can identify. I typically can figure out what I planted as far as tomatoes because they're just so, the way that they grow, the leaf pattern, all that type of stuff is, I could pretty much tell pretty easily. But I'm just gonna go back and watch this video honestly and see what planted where. Now the YOLO peppers, which are kind of like a sweet bell pepper, I had a really good germination with these. Actually a pretty solid germination with most of them. But I'm going to get some of these banana or the bell peppers in here. I've never grown bell peppers well. I have. I just don't historically have a really good, like, it's it's usually pretty challenging for me to grow bell peppers. So I'm thinking maybe growing right now in the spring. See, these just pull out. The roots aren't even established enough for it to be an issue. I'm hoping that this will be the time to grow these peppers. Now I'm going to plant them alongside of the tomato plants because again, I want to keep that room open in the middle of the beds because I do plan on planting my brassicas there. And I need to get those seeds started like right away. I'm gonna do 3 YOLOs down the line right here. Actually give a good amount of space. Giving about like, I don't know, like 10 inches of space or so in between that and the tomato plants. Now I want to do a little story time because the craziest thing happened yesterday while I was hanging out with my kids. So we have kind of like a swamp type thing in the backyard. I don't even know what you would call it, honestly. But I typically go back there with my kids. Now I have a 2-year-old and I have a 5-year-old. She's around 2.5. He had turned 5 not that long ago. So every time we go around our property, I kind of envision that book like we're going on a bear hunt. And if you're familiar with that book, that's kind of how I like envision my family. We're like adventuring outside and kind of getting into these weird little adventures and sometimes get in over our head, which is what happened yesterday. So let me get this. I got 1, 2, we'll do 3 YOLOs over here. And by the way, that is a children's book. If you're not familiar, it's not like a hunting book. Anyways, my son, daughter, and I were out in the very, very edge of our property yesterday, which is kind of like a no man land. I feel like there's parts back there we've never even seen because there's really thick brush back there. And we know that there's like a very, very large coyote presence in our backyard. I'll interrupt myself for a second. I'm going to put the mulatto island peppers here. Now, we kind of forget about the coyotes until like a police officer, like one of those sirens or something like that goes around and it kind of triggers them sometimes. And we'll hear the whole like coyote wolf pack do their thing. And then we're always reminded like just how absolutely close they are to us at all times. And then go back to kind of forgetting. So we were down at the very, very depth of the swamp area. And we were finding like little raccoon holes and all sorts of stuff. And having a good time. We were down there for a while. And suddenly, this is the craziest thing. I hear a growl that sounded like, I'm not kidding, like a bear growl. And we don't have bears in this particular area where we are typically. I mean, I don't know of any bears. But we heard a growl that was so loud and it was so close to us, like within, I'm not kidding, like 3 feet from us. And I pick up my daughter because she's 2 so quickly, like by the arms, like she's like, you know, and we lost her shoes. We were running and sprinting towards the top of the hill. My son's holding on to me for dear life, like basically pulling my pants down. We probably look like crazy people. But our hearts were racing so fast because there was just a coyote like right next to us. And now, of course, I'm not going to go down there like that with the 2 of them. I just didn't realize, I don't know, I feel like I thought they would have gotten afraid of just the presence of me and just kind of leave, but I didn't think they would stick around. So that was a freaky experience. And my son was like, oh, I loved it. That was great. That was a great experience. That, you know, he was so excited by it because he's really, really into wildlife. Like, that is his thing. He's not really a trains kid, not really into cars. Like, he likes those things a little bit, but he loves wildlife, reptiles, anything like that. Like, he watches animal documentaries constantly, and to him, that was like the thrill of a lifetime. So that just happened yesterday. I'm like pregnant, running up with my daughter up the hill, and it was crazy. So with all that said though, I still love living out amongst the wild, I guess. You know, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I do love this life, and I think it's really cool to coexist with the wild like that. got another chip drop. Now typically I'm all about smothering weeds, honestly, as opposed to biting them and pulling them and all that type of stuff. So the key to unwanted plants is to make it so they don't have the seeds don't have access to the light. So that means they won't have photosynthesis and they won't grow. I'm going to mulch around all my plants because now these plants are about 2 weeks old, and it's the perfect time to get the dead space covered, because we don't need to keep watering and tending to empty spots, you know, in the garden beds. It's just a waste of time. Now all down this back line is peas, which is kind of a little bit of a risk to do peas this early. So I'm gonna make sure these are all really heavily mulched so those weeds that keep competing with them don't have a shot anymore. I attempted to grow carrots, if you watched that video too. I only had 1 carrot germinate. You know, sometimes you fail and it doesn't work out. Sometimes I have no issue at all starting carrots, and you know, sometimes I do. So it is what it is. That's okay. I'll just give it a shot again. Whew, trying to squeeze in here. My lima beans. So I tried to grow lima beans this spring, and the bunnies, or the tortoise, whatever it was, the hare or the tortoise, they were both winning this time. And they were both eating the lima bean sprouts every single time they attempted to grow. So they can't get up here into these beds. I'm just gonna make sure these are mulched really heavily, because I want some dang lima beans. Next to that, because I did some beans in this bed, I wanted to shake it up. I have a rogue pea plant right here that I need to move. I have my garbanzo beans. Got a lot of good garbanzo beans plants growing right now. I haven't really grown these successfully either, so I don't really know how big the plants are expected to get. These could be way too many and way too close of an area, but that is just all a part of gardening. I don't need to know everything right away. I can discover it all over a matter of years, which is what makes this craft so exciting, because just a constant learning thing. So there are a lot of garbanzo beans, 1, 2, 3, around 16 of them germinated pretty closely, and it's a dream of mine to grow all my garbanzo beans, make my own hummus. That's a dream of mine. I know I've talked about this before. I love that full circle moment when it comes to gardening, where you've grown something and you get to make something 100% from scratch from the things that came out of your soil. That is like why I continue to garden at this level. So mulching all around so these little seeds, weed seeds, can't continue to thrive. I have my cucumbers in this area. I've got cucumbers over here. I believe these ones were the muncher. I'd have to go back and watch the video. I think I did the Boston pickling and the muncher. So I want these, and bonus, mulching not only smothers the weeds, but it also makes it so that you don't have to water as much, because all that moisture isn't, you know, evaporating out of there. And I don't have drip irrigation. As I said, my husband just ran over all my hoses, which, you know, that was kind of a big pain. I have 1 hose left to water like most of all this whole entire garden until we can fix that. So I'm going to be relying heavily on mulch for a few weeks. Okay, of course there's still a lot to do. I feel super positive about the progress that's been made despite that. I've got a few heavily planted beds that are going to give me a lot of options while I continue to work on the rest of the garden. The weather's getting nicer, so it's going to get easier for me to be out there and pull these weeds, especially while I'm pregnant, because it's just a lot harder right now. I have a lot less. I can do it, like I can pull all these weeds and things while I'm pregnant. It's the heat, or if it's like a very humid day, that's when I just like, I'm out, you know. So that is all I have time for today. I feel so much more optimistic. I planted 10 tomato plants, I think 6 pepper plants at least, more to come, of course. I cleared out 2 beds, and I got some stuff mulched. Now that is all and a good day's work. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, and just drop a comment if you have any questions at all pertaining to this video. My name is Shelby, and until next time, bye.